everybody. Today we are debating whether or not trans women should be able to compete in women's sports, and we're starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate. If this is your first time here at a Modern Day Debate, want to let you know we are a nonpartisan platform that hosts debates on science, politics, and religion. And we want to let you know we really do hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you come from. We try to host people with a ton of diversity of thought and backgrounds, and so this should be a really fun one today, folks. Want to also say we are really excited as later today at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as you'll see pictured in the bottom right side or corner of your screen, there will be a debate on whether or not sex work should be destigmatized. So that one should be a wild one. And you'll see on the far right side of your screen, Modern Day Debates has invaded the podcast world. So this is in addition to our YouTube channel. We're really excited about it. So if you love podcasts, hey, check us out. Feel free to rate us. And if we're not on your favorite podcast, let us know and we will work to get on there. So very excited for today's debate. I want to let you know up front that as you're listening, if you're like, I like that, I want to hear more, you can hear more. That's why I put the links of both of the speakers in the description just down there for you. And so with that, there should be a lot of fun, folks. We're going to get the ball rolling. I want to first, before we do officially start the debate, give you the format and then say hello to the speakers, as we're really just thankful to have them with us today. And so the format is going to be 5 to 10 minute openings from each side, followed by open conversation and then Q&A. So if you have a question, fire it into the old live chat. And want to let you know, given that Nine Tails Cosmic Fox will be taking the affirmative, they'll be basically be starting, followed by musical analysts following that, and then the open discussion as mentioned. So want to say both to Nine Tails and music analysts, we really appreciate you being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we agreed that music analyst is going to go first.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Still waking up over here. Okay. Mountain time. So thanks so much. And music analyst, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you. This is my first time being on here. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a Persian from Sweden, so excuse my English sometimes. I only spoke in English for 2.5 years. Anyways, so a brief little thing about me. I'm a creative person, singer, composer, philosopher, thinker, free thinker. In this discussion, I'm not for trans women, competing in women's whatever sport it is. But I have one thing that I actually can relate to people like trans people. Which is I've always felt odd and sticking out of the crowd throughout my whole life. I don't know what it is, but I've always been a searcher for truth and questioned things. Even when I was 5 years old, I was like, what is this reality? Anyways, so I have one thing that I relate to people like trans women or any other people that are odd, in others' views. So I'm in no way an expert on this topic, but I have a bunch of thoughts and opinions on this, which I would want to share to see if it holds any truth or not. If it doesn't hold any truth, then I don't hold it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm after what is the truth and what is right, no matter if it's Nine Tails or me or whoever. So anyways, so I just, the preparation I did for this was like, Can I share my screen? I have just some things I've just put down in any which order.
Absolutely.
Just my thoughts. So we're going to see what that is. Okay?
You bet.
So I just share the screen, right?
Yes.
Like this. Okay. Do we see this?
Yes. Right now we're seeing the YouTube page.
Okay. Do you see I have a little
Yes.
note thing. Okay, so I'm just gonna read these things. It doesn't have to correlate. What the fuck is the word? Correlate to anything. Okay, so this is what I wrote down. Doctors treat men and women differently since the bodies slightly differ. Women are made to last, like biologically in the old days of the caveman, and men made to fight and protect the family. So I'm just saying the difference between men and women. Women usually multitask better, while men single task better. Men and women store fat differently. Women gets more on the booty and the thighs. Men gets on the stomach, etc. Because women are created to store energy, because they have to take care of the kids and the whole thing. But men needs the energy more accessible. Yeah. Years of testosterone are lasting. They last after puberty. No woman to man, like I've not seen. I mean, I've not looked for it, but I've yet to hear the other way, like a woman transitioning to a man and then wanting to jump into men's sports. Okay, why not? Well, they don't get to gain as much as the other way around can gain. Like, anyways. Also, a minority can't dictate to the majority. Okay? As long as everyone is accepted and not bullied or assaulted, etc., that should be what everyone should want, and settle with that. Because not everybody will be liked by everybody, regardless if you're straight, gay, this, that. There will always be people that don't like you. But the most important thing is to just be able to coexist with each other, anyways. Force in any kind of way, physical or non-physical, equals rape. Like, rape doesn't have to be like a sexual, physical thing. You can rape somebody mentally if you, what do you say? Chain them mentally. Forcing everyone to be a certain way, or your way, equals eventually tyrannical dictatorship. Eventually, if it goes to its extreme. So where's the line? Anyways, not everyone would like everyone. I just said that. No matter sex. Anyways, how can, for example, religious people not force their beliefs on others, but you can? Also, focus. Men are better at keeping focus. Deals with fear in a different way. Men confronts more often. That's wrong spelling, maybe? I don't know. Men confronts more often than escaping a certain situation. Men usually drive cars better than women because of less fear, and they have greater focus. Because women tend to have more, and while they are in the, they're losing time, which might be, a couple of seconds, but it might be important in a car crash or whatever. Also, this is a question I would say to anybody that is trans. Nine Tails, I assume you are that, right? I don't want to, be disrespectful. You are trans, right? Okay. So in that case, the question would be, but maybe I should take that later, but fuck it. Would you, if you could get born in an organic or biological way into a female from the get-go, would you do that, or would you prefer it the way it is now?
All right, just testing though. Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
And
So you
we'll
do-
also.
you do-
Well, I'm not sure if you're meaning to go into the open conversation now, or if you're just kicking it over to Ninetails for Ninetails' opening. But I do want to mention that in either case, if you're able to unshare your screen, we'll kick back into the
Yes.
dialogue boxes.
Yes, but I have one more picture to show.
only. Gotcha.
Which is the difference. I have to see it. Which is the difference between. Oh shit! I don't get to go to that tab for some reason. Oh yeah, here. Just this picture, and then I'm good. So we see how the men's bodies are compared to the women's body. Generally, the skull is larger, shoulders wider, higher. I don't even know what female thorax narrower is, But anyways, female pelvis, hip is, wider. Male's arms are longer, legs longer, etc. Uh, so that was that. Yeah, I think I'm done with whatever that was. Yes.
We will kick it over to Nine Tails. Glad to have you here, Nine Tails, and the floor is all yours for your opening.
Thank you for having me. Thank you to music analysts for being here and James and the Mod for providing this wonderful space. First, to answer your question, actually, I'm going to give a little bit of a twist.
Yes.
I really want to play competitive frisbee golf
Okay.
after 2 years of transition. So
Okay.
really, this not only is this something that I've thought a lot about, but I've also done quite a bit of research. It doesn't seem like that research will be the best suited for this conversation. It seems like we're better off talking philosophy and stuff at this rate.
Yeah.
Because my intro might run a little long, I'm just going to get straight to that, and then we can talk about maybe your bone chart if you'd like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So just going to start. Today, I'd like to assert that there is no reason to prevent trans athletes from competing in sports. I like to show how the discussion of trans athletes not only diminishes their accomplishments, but the accomplishments and struggles of all female competitors and the spirit of athleticism itself. This is why I think this discussion is better suited for pushing an agenda of ostracization rather than protecting the ever fragile biologically female athlete. First, let's inject some critical thinking into the discussion. Something to consider is that the data on transgender athletes, particularly data sets which follow the, the process of transition and subsequent changes, are lacking at best. It's really hot here.
Here too.
While anyone could theoretically indulge in the process of making comparisons and overlaying charts, this task would be daunting to trained professionals, let alone merely someone with an agenda. On the other hand, the anecdotes and whataboutisms which seem to occur in this discussion tend to be nearsighted diversions, rather than something which can be used to predict outcomes or establish solutions, which don't further exclude the trans community. If we think about what is being suggested by opponents to their inclusion, it is the thing which the majority of the people fear most. To justify that an entire group of people must not be able to participate due to some slight concerns is arguably dehumanizing, and something we protect all other classes from being discriminated against. Anyone who uses biological essentialism has the ability to obsess about random concerns at their leisure, but doing so doesn't make much of a case. Without the data or statistics, there isn't much to go on except opinions alone. And that's why it's particularly vicious to make this a problem for trans athletes to deal with. I think that after considering how trans individuals are already targeted in so many other aspects of life, and how it is important that people not be shunned for the sake of their well-being, then the gravity of the situation can be seen. It seems to be incumbent on my opponent to substantiate their concerns and extreme solutions. They must show that statistically speaking, trans people are somehow dominating in a way which isn't just proportional to their training and dedication. My opponent must show that the differences between, for instance, a male to female trans athlete and an athlete born female at birth are significant enough to produce noticeable effects. Lastly, in order to show greater harm, it seems that one would have to show that the danger a female athlete is in is unprecedented, meaning that they aren't just in the same sort of dangers which these athletes sign up for, but rather a new threat which can only be removed by excluding an entire demographic. As far as protecting women goes, the acknowledgement of protected classes can only get one so far. The Special Olympics are a good example of a necessary protected class. It would be objectively absurd to expect most athletes in the Special Olympics to compete at the same level as fully able competitors. While it isn't impossible that the Special Olympian could surpass the capabilities of elite professionals in the main league, it is a bit much to expect that of them. However, the Special Olympics are not flawless in their execution. I've heard athletes from both sides say how it isn't right that the Special Olympics only take place after. It really says two things at once: that people are more interested in capable athletes, and that having them both take place in parallel would diminish the value of the original Olympics. Female sports are said to be the same sort of approach, keeping them more vulnerable away from the supreme. This might be an outdated way of thinking. The American female soccer team repeatedly outperforms the male team, but somehow they still make even less money. The rhetoric that women can only compete in an inferior way to men is a shattered talking point in these modern times. And at the very least, it serves to infantilize female athletes as a whole. When people make the assumption that because of the biological difference between men and women, that a female athlete won't train to the same degree or take the same risk, we remove their ability to actually break free of that paradigm. I think it is very telling that steel manning the opponent's opposition can only result in further degrading the accomplishments of female athletes, which is where the bias comes in, because there is a significant, obvious bias for trans competitors who succeed in their goals. The argument is that it's simply unfair because the competitor had differences in categories of X, Y, and Z. Yet these same people will remain silent if an athlete born female at birth were to make the same strides simply because their genitalia and chromosomes match the standard, which doesn't even have strong enough reasons for being in place. Also, that doesn't actually explain what those differences contribute to their performance. Simply being stronger doesn't help in every single sport. I can use a personal example with Frisbee golf. I trained as a biological male, but lost the majority of my talent as my ability to wield my unsightly frame became more difficult because the total throughput of my throws lessened and my accuracy fell noticeably. What's interesting about, excuse me, what's interesting about the accuracy is that it shows a significant interplay of factors, leading to a single performance statistic. For someone with short arms, it's possible that it would be easier to aim because the resolution of fine movement required to execute a flawless technique is not as great as someone with longer actuators, but less strength. But they have less strength. Sorry, I think I should have added this part. But if someone with longer actuators has less strength to compensate for that, then having longer arms may not be necessarily advantage in something like Frisbee golf. When we assume that trans women are inherently better than cisgendered athletes, we do so at our own convenience. And as someone who is in between my first and second year, I don't feel I have the luxury of assuming that like someone who is ignorant of the process would be. And yeah, that is like, I know that is a personal testimony, but I can guarantee you if you went through the process, it'd be really hard to believe that a male to female trans athlete can do the same as they used to. The spirit of competition is not solely about winning. While the human condition might drive us to formulate and show interest in games in which the stakes are high, this doesn't necessarily express the goals of your typical athlete. Self-improvement is what many athletes will tell you gives them the drive to get better, while winning is more like something you can put to paper. If anything, the goal described to athletes by people who want to exclude trans athletes are immature and vacuous. They are often grateful, trans athletes are often just grateful for the chance to compete at whatever professional or elite level they can. They often, and athletes in general often only see trophies and victories as shorthand goals and accomplishments. Assuming that a trans athlete wouldn't also have those same drives is entirely selfish. They are athletes and they are people. If we exclude them for participation in society because of what may be, then that would only contribute to the attempts at ostracization directed at that community, while also stifling the collection of data, which is clearly necessary to make more informed decisions. While I have no problem discussing the problems which can occur in various sports due to the marginal differences between groups, I also don't think it's up to trans people to solve the problem. We all may be entitled to our opinion, but when your opinion discards the majority of what's really happening, so you can remove a group of people from existing in a sect of society, then without substantiation, that opinion is probably trash. And that's my time.
Thanks so much. Want to let you know, folks, as I had mentioned at the start, I have both of the links in the description waiting for you if you'd like to hear more. Thanks Michaela for letting me know I fixed Ninetales Cosmic Fox's link as it was not working, but it currently is. And so, want to let you know, folks, we'll have open discussion and then Q&A to follow after. So if you have any questions, fire them into the old live chat. If you tag me with @Modern Day Debate, it makes it easier for me to get every question in that list. And Super Chat is an option, in which case you can not only ask a question, but make a statement toward one of the speakers, or both, that they, of course, would get a chance to respond to. Super Chat will also push your question to the top of the list for the Q&A. So, by the way, forgot to mention it up front, if this is your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button, as we have many more debates to come. So, excited for this, and the floor is all yours, Ninetales and Music Analyst.
All right. What stood up for me, Ninetales, what you said, one thing was when you said that female soccer outperforms, did you say that? Like outperforms male soccer?
The
You
male
said,
team, yes.
yeah, that's not true.
Well, in various world competitions they have done better than the male team. So when I say repeatedly, I don't mean they consistently do it. I mean they have in various ways.
Maybe there is an occasional case where it happens, like an exception, right?
Okay.
Exception,
Sure.
yes. But overall, you can't say that women.
But it shows that
soccer,
they can achieve the level of the male soccer team. So the differences are negligible.
Listen, Ninetales, I've seen you know, the national women's soccer team getting losing to like men, what is it, boys teenage soccer team. Like they're competitive with the boys soccer team. So how can I believe then that the women's soccer outperforms the men's soccer?
Well, it doesn't really. All it really shows is that you observe these things. So far, I'm waiting for you to make something that I can. I can respond to.
Yes. You know, I work like this. I have to say to people that don't know me, including you, I'm a free flower. I try to filter my thoughts as little as possible. So sometimes maybe I will say something stupid, but just know, excuse me if I do. I don't mean it to be ill intent. You know, I'm just
so that way the point isn't lost. The point was that the superiority of males isn't inherent. It isn't like something you can always assume. Sometimes that actually isn't true.
Yes, sometimes, but in general, they do outperform in, you know, running and, you know, what I talked about with the focus.
It's only sport specific.
We can go to other sports. We can go to other sports. I mean, the one you talked about, frisbee and stuff, I don't know about that. Maybe you're right on that.
It's a complicated thing to consider.
Yeah, but you could be right on that. But what I'm talking about, running, soccer, even tennis.
Easy ones.
Easy ones, whatever you want to call it. You know, even tennis maybe. And definitely, this is the biggest one. This is where I got the hugest one problem with. It's the fighting. Okay, the fighting is where I'm, you know.
So may I ask you something?
Yes.
When there's an athlete, say, let's just say a runner, just to keep it kind of gender neutral. When there's a runner who turns out to be intersex, they have both genitalia or they're undeveloped, various possible categories, and somehow that gave them an advantage. Do you think that they deserve to have their trophy removed, even though they're otherwise totally qualifiable as a female, just somehow their traits gave them an advantage? They can't qualify as a male, so what do you do?
Can you explain that a little bit? Intersex,
well, there's a lot
did
of
you
cases,
mean that?
There's a lot of cases where, let's just use female athletes because it's easy. Female athletes will dominate, and it'll turn out after doing some sort of examination that they have intersex characteristics, and that would have given them less than female attributes. Certainly not male, but less than female attributes.
Okay, do you mean like a female that is a little bit, in the mind, is a little bit like a dude?
No, not the mind. Physiologically speaking, their development made them leaning towards male, but not past that threshold of physiologically male.
Okay, a little bit more masculine female.
Yeah. Do you think that they deserve to keep their records?
Yes. Because yes, this is a great point. of course, there are females that even inside of the female division that are different. Like, let's say an African woman, female, might have a little bit more muscle. What do you say? Muscles than a white female.
Okay.
So she has a little bit more advantage over the white female.
Okay, do you
So
mind if I ask?
yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought you might have been making. I think I get your point.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to let you speak more. I'm sorry.
Okay. So no problem. No problem.
But
So what I want to say is that you can't even out everything, even in a female division. You can't make everything even. It's impossible. We're all different. Okay. We all have different bodies, even if it's in the same sex, whatever you want to call it. We all are different, different lengths, etc. Different things we've done in our lives.
I can agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? You can never get it to equal. Never. It's not possible.
Do you mind if I ask?
Yes.
Let's say two athletes actually dominated running. One of them was this intersex intersex athlete that you said qualified for those records. And the other one was a trans athlete who had all the same statistics, all the same performance, all the same output, measurable. They kept track of it. Was basically hold the same record, but by 0.001 of a second.
Yeah.
More plus or minus, I don't care.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's somehow their entitlement to that position is negated simply on the basis of their sexual history, their chromosomes, and their genitalia? Because that are the only things which technically don't change that you can show for sure.
I would say, like, if you're comparing it to the more masculine female, like the trans woman.
Yeah, those are the two people dominating that sport.
Yeah,
that
sport. Those two would be closer to each other, like in terms of what do you say, performance, ability, whatever.
But it's just because they trained. Let's just say it's just because they trained really well.
Well, it's because they have a little bit more muscles than the regular female. And since the trans woman came from a male body, I mean, you got to admit that, right? You come from a male.
But can I just point out? I've already negated that part of the thought experiment. I've already said they have the same output. So whether or not they have different muscle actually doesn't help.
Yeah, but that's such a hard thing to like.
I'm asking you,
being real.
Well, we have to be real about it. So if they can,
yeah, but it's so hard to say this trans woman is like this. Okay. Yes.
If the intersex person can be within the threshold that's acceptable, and performance-wise, so is the trans person, then how does the trans person's sexual history actually disqualify them, other than the fact that they're simply different?
The difference is still that you are still having a male frame, which the muscular female still don't, even though she's more muscular than the regular. What do you want to call them? The other females. It's important. Wait. It's important. Wait, because if you're born with a man's body, no. Listen, if you're born with a male body, maybe you would agree. I don't know, but male bodies are always a little bit more. What do you say? Fuck is the word I'm looking for. They're more clunky, like
bulky.
Bulky, yeah, maybe. Like more like a. While females are more. Wait. Female is like more. What do you say?
We do know this, Yeah.
I'm just saying my thoughts. Mm-hmm. I have to say my thoughts. I don't know if you know.
And I think it's really telling that this standard can't apply to like a pretty, like, I would call this the null hypothesis experiment. If you can't define a reason that two people with the same performance output aren't equally entitled to.
Yeah, but to me that's fantasy now.
You're just simply saying that they're different, though. It's just your opinion.
They are different. Men's bodies are different.
But their performance is the same. Their performance is the same.
No, it's not.
I've already stated that.
Let me ask you, Ninetales. Let me ask you this. Who would you say, if you had to choose, is the better dancer between men?
They've trained
the typical men and typical women. Who would you
see? Like, you could answer that in two ways. I think untrained, the female body might have advantages initially, but if the two bodies trained physiologically, they can achieve some sort of they can achieve something much closer than the differences of untrained individuals.
Yeah, but let's say they're both trained, okay?
But no,
And
this is
they
actually
dance.
something that is accepted by scientists who study sports, is that the differences between sexes untrained tend to nullify as both sexes train to the same point.
It's
So
hard for
like,
me to. Okay.
well, okay, go ahead.
No, it's hard for me because I know that a man is built more clunkier, which would make the dancing clunkier, while women are more, fluid. Yeah, fluid.
So we're talking about post-development for one thing. So they're past puberty, their bones have done their growth.
Yeah,
What else
past
would you say
puberty.
contributes to this clunkiness?
The density of the bones and all of that, thickness,
Well,
muscle memory,
So I'm
different.
just going to point out, we're just talking about differences. We're not talking about what hormones actually do to people. And I think so far the standard you provide wouldn't stand up to the actual changes that people experience after transition, because bone density is lost by people in transition, not their bone
No,
shape.
that's not true. I just saw a video. Maybe I don't know. People don't like. I saw a video from Joe Rogan just now
Okay,
talking
well,
about
he's not a scientist.
Yeah, but are we? We're not either. You know what I'm saying? We're just talking.
Part of my transition process is being told by my doctor all of the crazy things that are going to change. And one of them is that I need to be very careful about my bone health, because I do lose bone density and I am more prone to having broken
You probably
bones.
do. Yes, you probably do. But
And
will
so,
you lose it enough
Hold on.
so
let's
that it
hear
negates
the rest from Ninetales.
Okay, yes.
actually, I do think I said enough. I would just say that like as a trans person, I can speak to experience that there is an increased risk, and the differences become more negligible the more the transition proceeds.
I still don't think you lose all of those years you've been like.
Well, that's just your opinion. Okay,
No,
so
I
like,
mean I have to look also. Don't take offense. I'm just saying you look a little bit thicker than
that,
what I'm
but
saying.
like that's my bone size. You can't tell my bone density from looking.
But I still can.
A year in too, so I'm halfway to the point that is now considered agreeable that trans athletes should start competing.
I mean, I must just say, you look even more than me. I look soft.
It doesn't really matter how I look, because my bone density is still decreasing.
But it does, though. That's how we determine something. If you see a big,
no, it's not.
Giant wrestler, you assume.
We measure performance.
No, wait. When you see a big dude with muscles, pumped up, like boom, like a giant, you assume that person has a lot of power, don't you? You don't assume that person is weak, right?
I also don't assume that they have capabilities to wield that power, because I've seen martial arts videos where much smaller people.
Yes. Yeah, I've
and
seen
you
that
don't
too.
expect. So I think that what you're talking about, but you're talking about mass versus capability, and this is why I think this discussion can only get us so far, because when it comes to it, trained athletes don't just train their bodies, they train themselves to have greater capabilities. And so the more that these differences become negligible, the more that all that really matters is, can they train to be the same sort of athlete?
That it's not on a level. It's not fair. It's not fair. If you still have some masculine bone structure and muscle memory, even the brain, I've heard, even the brain is different between a male and a female. It
seems like it's not fair because you want it to be. It doesn't seem like it's fair because you have some sort of.
No, I have no skin in this game. I love to debate. Okay?
But you are working back from a conclusion.
Huh?
You are working back from a conclusion. Mm-hmm. Your logic isn't that you found evidence that proves your point. Your logic is that this is my conclusion, and these are the reasons why my conclusion.
But what evidence do you have?
Personally speaking, I think it's absurd that anybody would think that, like I, for instance, could perform at the level that I did like a year ago. It would be impossible, like literally impossible.
Well, let's say you were a fighter, and I have to bet my money on you, or I don't know, Lisa. What do you call them? Regular female? What do you call them? I don't know. I'm not into
this. I think the discourse is settled on biological female. Female born at birth is like a little bit more sensitive, I think. Cisgendered female is also okay.
Okay, the biological female. It's easier for me to remember. Sure. I got a lot of shit in my head. But so in a fight between you and a biological female, I would bet my money on you.
Well, I think
More
that's-
than not. Nine
I think
times,
that's
9 out of
shallow
5
and-
times.
I think that's shallow and nearsighted because personally,
That's shallow. It's true.
well, hear me out. I
Yes.
never was a good fighter as a kid. First of all, I think the funniest thing is I'd cry after every fight. I'd cry and I never wanted to fight again because I never could. Secondly, I don't, well, there's two reasons. One, I think one of them is personal reasons, but another reason is like things that happened throughout my childhood. I do not fight back properly. I don't have a proper adrenaline response. I tend to just want them to stop. And those things, but here's the thing is like, you can't make those judgments about somebody just on their looks alone. And this is what sports are really about because they bring out more than just our physicality.
I know, not fully, yes. But let me just ask you this. Okay, you say you don't like to fight, you know, I understand that. I'm the same. When I was
It's not that I don't like to, it's that my body physically makes it difficult for me to fight.
Okay, let's
I'm
say
not a fighter by sorry. Yeah, I'm just not a fighter naturally.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Let's say somebody's attacking your loved ones. I don't know what happened. They're trying to physically attack your loved ones, whoever that is. Would you be able to switch that on? And even though if you haven't been fighting before, to just like try to defend the people you love, would you, in that situation, would you try to ignite that?
I need to answer yes with a caveat though, because I think that the majority of females could also do that in a lot of scenarios too. And you're also talking to somebody who used to be a little squeamish around bugs, but now if a bug jumps out from a corner, I literally run away screaming. So I think like what you're trying to quantify is something that you can't show doesn't change with hormones. And I think the majority of the things you're saying you can't show doesn't change with hormones.
Let me ask you this. They say when you have more testosterone, you become a little bit more or less fearless. I mean, you become more fearless.
I agree.
When you have more testosterone, that you know, it doesn't have to be anything good, but you're less fearless. More fearless.
There seems to be something going on with that. I can speak from experience. I think that's the great thing about sports, though, is that a lot of the fear in sports is contained. It's very much controlled. And so the risks that are taken by athletes are generally shared amongst genders.
Yeah, they're both taking risk. But what I'm saying is the more testosterone you have, the more fearless you become. And that can be an advantage in sports.
But I don't
fighting, especially in fighting.
I don't think female competitors experience fear like that when they're actually competing. I don't. I think you're ascribing something to them that you can't actually show is there. Because I think when you're a competitor in something, you don't have fear. I just think that that's like a natural thing you can assume.
But fighters have fear. Even the greatest fighters. I have always said, like, if a fighter says they're not scared when they're going into the ring, they're lying. They're trying to hide that they are afraid. But we all have fear when we. You know why? Because it makes sense. They say we all have fear because we don't know when we go in there. We don't know if our heads are gonna be smashed in, and I might have a permanent, disability.
But literally all the
or even die,
take on that risk.
I know, but that doesn't. Yeah, but that doesn't take away that fear is not there. I mean, no, fear is still there, regardless.
But female football players still got through that fear. So I don't think you're making a very quantitative statement about female athletes. I think you're just saying like, oh, some females feel more fear, so we should assume that about all females.
Generally, most of them, not some. There might be exceptions.
I think that's more of an outdated conception about
women. Let me explain. Explain this.
Can I actually tell you something? Personally, I was going to say, women to me have been some of the biggest influences in my life. They're some of the most fearless people I know. They're willing to take on such like diverse problems and not just like keep on solving them in the same ways. If anything, I think women are less afraid of a lot of the things that men are afraid of. And especially if you look past just like brutality.
Let me just turn that around to you. How can you say that women tend to be more like what you just said? You just said that all women don't have to be all full of fear. But now you're saying women tend to be like what you just said.
Well, I think that this is a more complicated thing than just reducing fear down to a fear of brutality, I think like there's a lot of incentive, physiologically speaking, for men to engage in brutality. But I don't think that applies as easily to sports because sports are a way of controlling that brutality,
Yeah.
and women do engage in that same brutality. So it seems like it's a counterexample of anything.
Okay, let me ask you this. Would you agree, in the old cave days of humanity, Neanderthal, I don't know what you want to call it as, that the men had a purpose and the women had another purpose? The women was, uh, to give birth of a child and, give that child love and emotion and all that, while the man was hunting and defending its family.
Well, I would
Okay.
say that there was a proponent to that in our biological landscape, but I also wouldn't say that there were no women who were able to take on the roles of men and no men who were able to take on the roles of women.
Yeah, I'm not saying that either, but I'm just saying
Exactly. You
general.
can't possibly, well, and that's the thing is like, I think that when you make things biologically essentialist, you're removing the people who aren't stereotypes from the
But you
discussion.
can't neglect the biological thing. You know why? You know why? Because we as human, I think we become a little bit arrogant in this way. Like we try to, just because we have high technology and this, that, we try to also dictate nature. Listen, I can want to alter
Can you
reality.
actually, yeah,
Huh?
are you going to elaborate on that? Because
Yes.
you're okay. I just want to make sure because you had lots.
Yeah,
of
I'm trying to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So no problem. I might want to, alter my reality because I'm not happy with how I have it right now, but I just can't on some things. Some things are just objective truths. You know what I'm saying? Some things, like, do you believe in objective truth?
But here, let me just point out that this biological essentialism you just point out is not an objective truth.
It is.
There are women who succeed the roles of in the roles of male, and there are males who succeed in the roles of women.
Yeah, but
So
you're talking about exceptions.
Let's hear the rest.
Okay.
Yeah. Therefore, I don't think that it's an absolute like you're making it out to see, and therefore the fact that it's not an absolute shows that you can't, say that there's some fundamental law that we can operate on.
Okay, let me know when you're done, so I know, so I don't interrupt.
That was it. That was it.
Okay, I would say the opposite. There is absolute stuff. Like, just looking at us, we have a penis, they have a vagina, or men have a penis, they have a vagina. That's a clear difference.
That doesn't really help in sports for the most part. If anything, women have a better advantage in most sports because
of their vagina.
Yeah, because they don't have the danglies. Because they don't have danglies.
Okay, that might be true, but in sports you have the cup that holds them tight.
Those are not great. I actually tried hockey for a bit in grade 8, and I'm glad I never actually had to wear those consistently. I think that's still a disadvantage.
But still, though, if you're running and you're a dude with balls, and you have something that holds them tight, that helps you with running. Like, it's almost like you got a vagina now, but it's.
I'd assume having nothing there is better.
I don't know. If you have a cup, I think it will help you, even though you have balls.
Anyways, I think it's actually really telling because when you do consider the differences that hormones make, you can only really reduce it down to an argument about bone shape, which is like, reminds me of when people used to be obsessed with skulls, and then genitalia and chromosomes. And then
well, of course. Wait, bone density, like how thick your skull is. Let's say you're going into
I can guarantee you that bone density changes. The bone shape is not what changes. These are two different things. We have to be able to differentiate them.
I don't know if I can be with you on that. You might, reduce maybe a little bit, but I don't think you will lose it all.
But do you have a basis for believing that, or are you just assuming that because it makes you sound right?
Listen, I'm not claiming that what I'm saying is the absolute truth or whatever. I'm just speaking from my own view, which we are all pretty much doing. Okay, yes.
Oh no, sorry, I was trying to to you, but
yeah.
This is why I think working back from your conclusion is problematic because you don't get closer to the truth. You can just frolic in whatever you want to be true at any given time. And so what's really true is that the data has shown that bone density is lost to a point that's comparable to other women.
What data is that? How can I know that is true?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, we can start sending sources back and forth. I think
Yeah, I
that would
know.
be
And we might
okay.
still not
Well,
get to the real answer. Maybe you're
okay.
right. Maybe you're not.
So
I
then
don't know.
let me continue. Let me continue.
Yes.
Shoot, I actually lost my point.
That is cool.
I had to just talk about
take your
sources.
time.
So like really, when you're working back from your conclusions, there's a reason that like the data isn't saying yet that men have a definite physiological advantage. You're not going to find very many scientific papers that are peer reviewed or case studies that are peer reviewed because so far the data doesn't quantify that. And so when somebody's, let me finish. So whenever somebody's trying to make these conclusions without the data, they're simply frolicking in the land of fantasy.
The problem I have with this, it's all too much numbers talking. Like there's no,
I agree.
you
There's
know,
not even enough numbers to talk about.
I put more emphasis. Maybe I'm stupid for this, but I put more emphasis also on what I actually can see and think for myself, because that I can.
That's easiest.
I don't know. Yeah, but I can get my own conclusions to this. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I have my thoughts because I not only look at numbers, because numbers can be you know, tampered with. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah. I think that says a lot, because really, I think this discussion can only be taken place with people who don't know. Scientists aren't having this discussion yet because they know that there are still myriad studies that have yet to be done to actually quantify any of this.
Let me ask you.
And so, just let me finish though. You're not just talking about something inconsequential. You're talking about the social ostracization of an entire class of people. And so this isn't just a benign thing where like, if you're wrong, it's okay. If you're wrong, then, but what you want still happens, then you're very wrong.
I'm not pushing for any of this. I'm just listen. I mean,
when you work back from conclusions, I think you naturally are. But I
no. I'm observing stuff, and then I'm saying what I'm observing. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying what I'm observing is this, and that. That's all I'm doing. I'm just like putting stuff on the table. Some might stick, some might not. I don't have any. Listen, I don't. You know, I'm not invested in this. I just have opinions. But let me ask you this: how come doctors, when they have to treat a person, they need to know if you're a biological male or biological female, just because apparently there are some difference with hormones and body parts. They have the ovaries and shit, and there's some difference, and they need to know if you are a biological sex, your biological sex, not to offend you or be against you, just because they want to treat you correctly. Because if you give them wrong information, maybe not everybody just. If they give you wrong information, if you give them a wrong information, they might treat you bad. I mean, how would you say? They treat you wrong, and then you might get bad things happening to you because they treated you as a female while they should have treated you like a male, just on the treatment. Like, what do you say to that? Let's say something happens, you need to go to the quickly, I'm gonna finish this up. You're gonna go to the doctors and you're very damaged, whatever. They need to know. What would you say?
Well, actually, I am going to answer your question. I just want to point out one thing, but then I actually have a question for you, so we can be on clearer terms. I just want to point out that this is actually not going to say much about trans people in sports. This is only going to say anything about the differences between male and female. So I really think that we're getting away from the subject.
But it is tied into this.
The question I want to ask you is, do you think that genitalia and chromosomes are more relevant to medical doctors than they are to professional athletes?
I would think it's more to the doctors.
Yes, and that's I think that once we realize that there are a myriad reasons more why a doctor would consider that than a professional athlete might consider the genitalias of the people they're competing against, then I can see why we might see this is kind of a false equivalency.
Yeah, but when it comes to the sports, I don't think people really care about what's between your legs. They're talking about the physical. No, that would be stupid.
But you've already shown that there is a bias for when people have those genitalia or had them, and when they have those chromosomes, yet their performance is matched with someone who qualifies as a female competitor.
Yeah,
So you've
but
already
that's so
shown that the
hard.
bias
That's so
exists.
hard. No, that's so hard
It's-
to get an exact number of what you as a trans woman can perform and what a female can perform. It's so hard to measure something like that. It's a
Exactly.
fantasy thing. No,
So
wait. It's a fantasy thing. There, as I said before, there are no equals even in the same sex sports. There are no equals even there. But you have to what do you say? You have to do it in some way. Like
I think
you
the
can't get any.
fantasy. I think the fantasy is assuming that anything you say could apply to reality when you're just simply making observations of a medically complicated phenomenon about an entire class of people. I think if you're going to try to make these arguments, if you can't substantiate them, then you're arguing for something quite awful and quite disastrous to the trans
Why
community.
do we
Let me
have
finish.
to?
May I finish though? You're arguing for something that's quite disastrous to the trans community with very little basis at all.
Okay.
And I think that that's pretty cruel, because anybody could make that
But it's
position.
not meant to be cruel at all.
But
you know what I'm saying?
Then I really think you should revise your positions, if like either research them better or like try to
Listen, I've said I'm not here to say what I'm saying is the absolute truth. I'm here to discuss, and that is the problem. Listen, let's go into this. That is the problem.
Well, my problem is actually that what you're discussing doesn't even apply to grade 8 biology, because it's already missing some of the fundamentals of that. Like we're already we're doing a better job speaking to how someone who's like 10 might see gender and sex and stuff like that than how an expert ever would. And we're not getting any closer to understanding how an expert would.
It doesn't matter. We should be able to have these debates.
But
like,
we can't.
I'm not.
We can't. With biological essentialism alone, we can't.
I'm not attacking anybody. I'm not in that field. You know what I'm saying?
You are.
Given.
Huh?
What I was going to do is. Go ahead. I'll let you finish that point, 9 tails, and then I'm going to jump to something that just came in.
Okay, I think when you do biological essentialism, you are undermining what's really going on by reducing people down to their biology.
This is related.
Well,
this question's related, so you'll get a chance to answer, both of you. Thanks for your super chat. We're going to interweave some of the super chats just to read them when they're relevant, if we can. So T Torchon, thanks for your question, said, can we remove all categories? Let best X win. I'm confused by that last part, but regarding removing... Okay, if you want to explain your interpretation, that'll help clarify things.
Yeah, so like the idea being that you could just be like a ranked system where females... and this is obviously...
I see, okay. So go ahead.
This is less applicable for some sports, more applicable for others. I think it's ideal if we're going to address some of the problems that gender does create in sports. This is definitely an ideal solution.
So let me say, see if I got this straight, because if it is, it's something I wanted to bring up. What was the question, like create a third division, if you like, where it has men?
Just a unified division where everybody competes all in one, and you're
all
kind
humans.
of ranked. You're kind of ranked instead of.
But you could also, but why take away the other ones? Why do you need to take away the men's ones and the females ones to have this unified ones? No, but why can't you have the men's, you have the women's, and you have the mixed one that has everybody in it? Why can't you have that?
It's not always necessary.
It is necessary, because some biological females, they maybe not want to be in with men and trans women and this, that. Maybe they want to keep. They don't have that right to make that choice.
I think this is really reliant, though, on underestimating the ability for biological females to achieve the level of biological men. I think you're creating this huge vacuous gap between them based on what you don't know about it, and you're using that.
I know, male. I'm a male. I know I can beat most women.
I'm pretty sure what you're saying would be incredibly unconvincing to most experts, because what you're doing is you're saying, here are all the things I don't actually understand about the difference. Look how big this gap is. This is evidence that the gap is significant between these two things.
I'm no dummy just because I don't know the numbers. I can think I have a great mind. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I have a great mind, but it's not conventional. It's not like how you. I don't know.
I would argue that your arguments could only apply to a self-centered worldview.
No, I'm not self-centered at all. You know what I want? I want everybody to be able to be who they are. Everybody. I don't care what you are. You have the right to be whatever you want, as long as you don't force it on anybody else. I don't care if it's a straight person forcing straightness on somebody or a gay person forcing gay.
I have good
The
news.
point,
I have good news. Nothing's being forced. In fact,
but it is.
no,
It is
just
because
let me finish. Let me finish. You actually created the scenario where this is happening. Because if we're going to truly include people for being who they are, we're not going to exclude them unless we can make substantial arguments for why they should be excluded. And you're arguing that, just let me finish, you're arguing that they should be excluded because of how much you don't understand about the difference between a transgender athlete and their biological counterpart.
But that's your opinion. That I
No,
don't
but that's what
understand.
you're doing. That's literally what you've done this entire time. You haven't substantiated anything.
Okay, let me ask you this. Inclusivity. I don't know if that's inclusivity. I don't know. How do you say it?
Perfect. Great.
Inclusivity. Okay, inclusivity. What does that mean? It includes as many people as possible, many different types of people, right?
I'm tempted to say the opposite of exclusion, but ideally it's not excluding people for things that they don't need to be excluded for.
Okay, but in the overall sense of it, it's like inclusive, which means we tend to more include people than not include, right?
Yeah, less reasons to exclude than reasons to include.
So it's more into the inclusive, huh?
Yeah.
Including. Okay.
Yes.
Let me then ask you then, if I can make this point, where do you draw that line of inclusivity?
I'd probably wait till there's enough data for the experts to say what they think is most effective, because let me finish. So far, there just isn't enough data to actually quantify that, and I don't.
But I'm asking you.
And I'm saying I don't think it's fair yet to exclude a class of people with a lack of data.
But you could say in a way that people that may not automatically share your opinions, that you're excluding them because they don't agree with you. You're excluding them.
They can still compete in the sports. I don't know what you mean at all.
No, but for example, when you try to say that I was attacking somebody some way, that's starting to exclude me out of the picture. Like you.
No, but let me differentiate, because there's a difference between saying you musical analysts are attacking all trans people, whereas by virtue what you're saying diminishes trans people down to a biological component, which they are more than. So when I could have used better language. I'm going to have to give you the floor for at least a minute, because I have to get my charger. And that's, just to be fair, I'm not saying you are personally attacking people.
Okay, thank you. Should I keep going, or James, do you want to interject with some questions? Or
can read one or two super chats that are targeted toward me. Nasty Guy Steven Steen, thanks for your question or statement, says, James is the third biological sex, alpha daddy. Thank you for that, Steven. Nasty guy, folks. Nasty guy. Thanks for your question. Let's see. This one comes in. We can do one more, and then we can do any sort of concluding points from you both before we jump into the Q&A. So we'll do one more. T. Torchon, thanks for your question, said, if trans woman is valid, why is trans race not valid?
Trans race?
Well, it's actually pretty easy. Sex is a very objective thing, and race is not. If you talk to any experts, I guess like you could start with a sociologist or maybe an anthropologist, they would say that race is more of a construct we use to describe these groups, but you couldn't actually draw an objective line between the races.
Gotcha. Vince, if you have any response?
Yeah, I just want to say on another point, to this, if there are trans race, would that mean, like, let's say I'm Persian, but I feel like an Austrian and an African.
But
is that
these people would say they feel it on a physiological level, right?
Okay, let's say I'm doing that too.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's say I'm doing that. I mean, yeah, I might be thinking that I am that, but can I be black, white, and one more, some other color at the same time? I don't know. If that is how you determine race, I don't know. Are we determining race on how our skin color are, or the culture we come from? I don't know. what I'm saying?
It must be a very personal thing. I can't speak for these people myself.
I can't either. That's the first time I've heard trans race.
Well, it's
Anyways,
funny
I want to
'cause-
ask.
Go ahead.
I think
I want to just
what we
ask
can-
you that this is
one thing
this
I'd
is
like
my
to
last
do.
point.
Hold on
this.
1 second. Is
Yes.
well, I do want to give. We'll probably because I think the challenge of that question was directed toward Ninetales, so we'll give Ninetales
Okay.
the last word on that one. If you want to add
Okay,
something really quick before we go back to Ninetales, you can.
I'll
No,
leave
no,
it up
it's-
to Vince actually, because I feel like I said what I need to say already.
Okay, but I'm done on that question.
Gotcha.
The trans race question.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay.
But I have a final thing to say. Ask Ninetales,
Okay.
which is this whole thing. Where do we draw a line? Do we draw a line? Is there a line that is drawn? And this, I don't know if this is related to the sports, but I'm talking about. You know, some would say to a trans woman, like, yeah, you feel like a woman, but when I look at you, you got the, you know, biological male body. So they would argue, yeah, even though you feel like a woman, on the outside you still look like a man. So
This is a great place for me to answer, actually.
yes.
Because observations alone aren't what we use to define reality. We obviously can't use our observations to define physics. We can say that certain observations are defined by these laws that we've determined by physics, but we can't say that somebody is made of the observations that other people make of them. And so the line will certainly not be drawn by the observations people make.
Okay, let me then say this to you. Why does a trans woman feel the need to, for example, grow out long hair and wearing dresses, this, that? Because that is trying to look like a biological female, isn't it?
Yeah, and that would have to.
But why? Why could you not look like whatever you want and still be a female? Why do you have to dress like a
People
female?
do. That is, there are trans, non-binary people in that sense.
Yeah,
The
would you say
personal-
those are?
Let me answer.
Huh?
Let me answer. I think the key point isn't about being a female. It's about never actually being a male. And so for me, like, I only ever could look up to the females in my life. I only ever got close to the females in my life, even if they were just friends. They were better friends to me throughout my life. And so all of the demands that were put on me by a male literally made me not want to have anything to do with being a guy. I don't want people to treat me as a guy when they see me. I want them to assume I want to be treated as a woman.
You feel like a woman, basically.
It makes more sense that I would interact with the world that way.
But
based on
okay,
what I have.
what would you say is a male thing? What is being a male? Like, if you take away the physiology thing,
Oh, jeez.
what would be a male? But you have to
I-
know, because you just said you don't feel like a male. You were more like the female ones. So what is it that made you feel that you're not like these guys and you're more like these females?
James, do you feel like asking a question?
We can jump into the Q&A. If
Okay,
you
wait,
guys...
James. One. I have a point with this.
Hold on. I want to give... Unless Ninetales is deferring to you, I want to give Ninetales a chance to answer.
Okay.
I could just give a simple explanation. I'm not going to answer it directly because
Where I was going with
We got...
okay.
hold on. Ninetales froze while trying to give an answer.
Okay.
Ninetales, we didn't hear that last 3 seconds or so.
Okay. I just have a simple explanation. It's the expectations that I cannot do. So any expectations that you would apply to a male, just assume that I could never do them.
Even though you don't really know what defines a male.
I do. I just don't want to get into it. It seems
Okay,
like we're
okay,
getting
okay.
really off point.
Okay. Okay, but this is my last point. This is where I'm getting at. Where is the line? Like, if somebody says, a 45-year-old male, let's say, male, okay, says he feels like a 13-year-old male. Where is that line drawn? Should we say, okay, he feels like a 13-year-old male, therefore he wants to be around 13-year-old, whatever, kids. Should we be inclusive to that?
By the way, are these our final points?
No, I'm just making a point.
There's...
When we're talking about this.
I just want to make sure that I respond accordingly. I would say that if there is going to be a fair way to describe things, it's certainly not going to be looking at two people of equal output and assuming that one person's less qualified because they have a different gender history. You're gonna need something more substantial than that.
No, I'm just talking about that guy. Let's
You're
say
just talking. You're right. You're not actually doing.
Well, we're
anything
both
to,
just talking. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
doing anything different.
Well, intellectualism requires work, so.
You see the jab. Why did you feel? I haven't jabbed you. Why did you feel when you jabbed me?
Well, because
I've not been jabby to you.
Because it's so easy to have this discussion from a point of privilege to say
No,
that.
I just want to understand.
But let me finish, because what you're doing is you're saying that my observations matter most to me, and therefore they must apply to reality. But in fact, like anybody who had.
Oh,
we lost you, Ninetales. Ninetales will be back, folks. Don't worry, we've been through this before. We'll get through this. Ninetales will be back in just a moment. Sometimes internet connections ebb and flow, but do want to mention while we're on the subject, privilege came up, and tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have 3 debates today. We were going to have a debate on whether or not male privilege is real, so that should be a juicy one. So don't forget to tune in for that if you want reminders. I think there's usually that you can like click set reminder now on like the event page. So we'll wait for Ninetales to come back. Let me check if there are any other questions. By the way, I don't know if this is just me, if I'm crazy, but what I've been seeing in the live chat is like scrambled pictures where it's got like different people's pictures matched to different names. Is this just me or am I? Yeah, so like I'm baffled by this. I'm wondering, I'm like, did I have some bad orange juice this morning? Because it is almost like a hallucination where I'm seeing different people's names matched with different pictures other than their actual avatar. So I am frightened, but we are very excited. As like I said, today should be a wild one, and I'm going to just peek over and see if any new questions have come in that we can ask while we're waiting for Ninetales to jump back into the chat. We do have one, let's see, from Halsoy. Thanks for your question. Said, I just dropped by here quickly, but I have to wonder. Let's see. Well, this was actually a question that we want to give Ninetales a chance to respond to, and so we're going to wait for Ninetales to come back. I can give you a couple channel announcements in the meantime. Very excited. We just got on our iHeartRadio for podcast apps. We just got on Google Podcasts. We're waiting on Pandora. I think we should be on Pandora like any day now, so you can actually listen to our podcast on Pandora. So that will be awesome. And want to let you know as well, we are excited for a lot of debates, not just today, but tomorrow morning. We will be going at 8 a.m. my time, Mountain Time. So if you're in the mountain area, the Mountain Time zone, like Colorado, I think Arizona is currently in Mountain Time. We are going to be going at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, which is 10 a.m. for those of you on the East Coast. And that way we'll also get to hear from our European friends, hopefully. We will be going on the topic of whether or not Islam fits in Western society. So that will be a juicy one. And Ninetales is back. Thanks so much. Let's see if the connection can make... Ninetales is back. Glad to have you back. And
Hi.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you were maybe saying something just as you got cut out. Am I wrong?
I forget. I just had a moment.
That's okay. Otherwise, we do
I
have
can remind if you want.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
I was just saying,
We'll finish
is there
this
a
last point
line
before Q&A.
Is there a line to be drawn at some point or not? Or is there no line to...
Oh yeah, I remember now. I was just thinking we're definitely not going to get anywhere by saying, "Hey, look at this person. They don't look female," even though like the majority of trans people probably pass. So I don't think it's at all a very quantifiable argument or position to take. It would fall short of any expert opinion.
Gotcha. We will jump into the Q&A. So thanks so much, folks, for your questions. We have another one from Halsoy. Said, why is it that this never seems to be a debate topic if trans men should be able to compete in men's sports?
Yes. Can I go?
This is for pretty... I think this is meant to be like a challenge to Ninetales.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that that's actually a good proof of the bias is that the qualifiers are literally that we have to infantilize women in order to deem that they need to be protected and be white knights for them. So, of course, men transitioning to or female transitioning to male just isn't on the radar of people who are trying to make a bigger issue out of something that it really is.
Gotcha. This is just because it's a juicy question. We'll kick it over to Vince and come back to you. Vince, is this true? Are you white knighting? Are you a soy boy trying
Hell
to?
no.
Okay.
Hell no. I would never do that.
What's
Ever.
your answer on this question? Is it true that you're a white knight?
Oh, they think I'm a white knight. Is that the case?
For women, they say you're trying to be a white knight. You're trying to say,
no,
I'll
no,
be
no,
the
no,
hero
no.
of these women.
No. Listen, no. I'm the hero for what is right and what is true. I don't care if you're a woman,
So far, you
man,
haven't proven
trans,
what's
this, that.
Hold on.
Huh?
Wait, one sec. Let's hear from Vince or
All right.
music analyst.
I don't care who you are. I just want things to be right and fair. That's all. But I want to answer to that. I would say why there aren't female to men trans going into others, men's sports. But it wouldn't
You just
be
don't notice them
wise.
because they're not in the
One sec. I
propaganda.
promise we'll give
wouldn't-
you the last word on this, Ninetales, since it's
sorry.
originally for
It
you.
wouldn't be wise because I would say they don't have any advantages over the guys. They will get wrecked. They would get wrecked. Therefore, they don't do that. But on the other side, men to female, they might have, if my stance on this is right, they more than not might have an advantage on the women, and that gives an incentive for them to join the women's and not the males.
Gotcha.
Biological males. Okay. Yeah.
And Ninetales, will give you the last word on this, given that the super chat seemed to be challenging you.
Thanks, James. Well, first of all, he said he wasn't white knighting because he's just here to push the truth, but he can't even tell where the truth is. So I think that's really
I know the
interesting.
truth. I've been searching for
Hold
it my
on.
whole
we're
life.
gonna
Yeah,
give
but you
Ninetales
just
I
the
challenge
last word.
you, Nine
were
Tails,
like-
to any other
gonna-
debate as well, not just this topic. Okay. Yeah.
It's interesting how you rely on your observations, like almost
Yes.
every other expert does not. But the other thing is that naturally we don't notice female to male transitioners in the propaganda looking to target trans people because that would be proving that that athletes aren't just about winning. Athletes are competitive people. They actually just want to show that they're bettering themselves. They want to compete against other people. It's the love of the sport. And the fact that people, I think it's very unathletic to reduce it down to simply winning.
Okay. Let me just
Hold on. We do have to keep moving. I've got a number of other questions, so we do have to keep moving. I hate to do it, Vince, but
Okay.
iPhone Musings, thanks for your super sticker. Appreciate the support, friend. That means a lot. And let's see, we've got another from Spart344. Says, for Ninetales, the women's USA soccer team has better results in their gender category. Female national soccer teams lose to boys. Australia women's teams versus boys U15. I think they're saying that was another example of Olympic women's teams losing to like teenage boy teams.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that being the fact that it's like it was within a gender category. Whenever you study something, you have to control for those factors. So it still proves something, I think. And I think furthermore, it would be really difficult for you to find that there are no female soccer players who can achieve the same output as any of the male soccer players on those teams.
Gotcha. And next up, thanks for your question. This one comes in from Chu John Wing. Let me know if I mispronounced it. Appreciate your question. Said, for Ninetales, what are the implications of body contact? A boy wrestler lost his chance at the wrestling championship because he didn't feel comfortable wrestling a female.
Well, yeah, it's good to hear that he was sensitive of that. I think females are pretty okay with incurring harm if it's something that they're already doing as part of the sport. We have female MMA fighters, and it's really up to that person if they feel comfortable. It's sad to hear that boy thought he couldn't fight against a female competitor, because really it's not, these differences are not as big as we're making them seem, and it's really removing the chance for that female competitor to show that she is on that boy's level.
Gotcha. And Spart344, I'm going to look for a question for you, music analyst. We'll get if you want a chance, we'll give you a chance to rebut, and then we'll kick it back to Ninetales to be fair, because I don't want to gang up in the super chat. Seems to be challenging Ninetales, so we'll go like I said, first to Ninetales, then Vince, then back. Says Spart344, why do you think there are weight classes in MMA and boxing? How do you think Conor McGregor would fare against someone the size of Brock Lesnar?
Well, weight classes exist because even within the gender classes, there are differences. And weight classes are actually a good example of how you could get rid of gendered sports and just have these more distinct, tailored classes to people's performance.
Gotcha. And if you want a chance to respond, Vince, you can.
Yeah, I want to just add in to the previous point. I have to do this because I would say the male, let's say fighters, would prefer a woman going to transitioning to a man entering.
Maybe you.
No. Yeah, but let me just say, I think they would prefer that because they would more than not have the advantage over that female to male person. That's what I think.
I think it's really easy. Yeah, I think it's really.
They would
easy
prefer that, and they would welcome that. Like, yes, come on, trans women to men.
We'll give it. Okay, we'll let Ninetales wrap up, and then we'll go to the next question.
Yes.
I think you're really essentializing athletes and why they do what they do. Like, you're really reducing them down to this, I need to win. I need things to be as easy for me as possible. When I think for most athletes, it's the love of competing. It's the love of performing that matters.
But it has been shown.
Hold on, we must move to the next question. So, thanks for your question. This one comes in from... Oh, 1 second. Just skipped over. Spart34 again says... I feel like I missed one. Let me know. I feel like there was another question. So sorry, folks. This is the last one that I have. And
you're so dedicated.
Let's see. Oh, gosh. And I was a two-parter, so I think I missed the second half. So sorry. Spart344, if you can do me a favor and condense the question into a single chat, that'll help me. I only have the first half. And also, want to let you know, we do have another question. This one, someone had asked, can we get a turf in one of these discussions? We're open to it. The door is open. If there are any turfs out there, do turfs call themselves turfs?
Sometimes.
Gotcha.
Can you explain what is a turf?
It's a trans exclusionary radical feminist. They believe that being trans is antithetical to feminist ideals. I was actually going to try to make the case in this debate that the more feminist thing is to not inhibit women based on like slight differences, but we didn't get there. But I would actually say that an argument with the turf would be amazing because I disagree on a theoretical basis alone.
I'm curious, do you know where a turf do turfs generally have a typical answer to the question that's being debated today?
I find it's about the same.
You mean like that turfs would say that turfs would take Vince's position or your position?
Well, yeah, Vince's position. They say, here are my observations, and that proves everything.
Are you, Vince, are you secretly a radical feminist? You've been just leading us around.
Hell no. But let me explain. Hell no. I'm a feminist in the original sense of it, way back. Or also, I'm a feminist if that means, if that means, like, I remember when this feminist thing started to take off, I was wondering if they were talking about women in third world countries and stuff like that, because that I am 100% in with them on, because they don't have freedoms, they get beat down by their men, etc. But here in the West world, I've never seen the things they're saying. Like, you know, they're blogging and webcamming and having men open the doors for them and this, that, buying them dinner, this, that. And also, women can hit men and they, you know what I'm saying? Women can hit men and men can't hit back. I'm not saying anybody should hit anybody, but sure. I would say nobody hits nobody. That's where I stand. But anyways, so what I'm saying is I don't agree with that sort of feminism, because it doesn't take issue with the real shit that is happening women in the third world and other, you know.
Well, can it?
What is that?
Sorry, James, go ahead. I'm going to James probably wants to go
I'm trying to look for. I think we did have some people in the chat say that they are turfs. So turfs, if you're out there, we are open to having you on. Shoot me an email at moderndaydebate@gmail.com, as that would be an interesting perspective to get to have as well. And Joanna also said that it might be a good tag team, you, Ninetales, and Joanna against two turfs. Or maybe
I
turf,
like me a tag team.
maybe a turf and Vince. I don't know. So, yeah, you strange bedfellows, but that could be an interesting debate. And so,
I'm in.
Always juicy. And
For sure.
I'm gonna just quick double check that we have gotten all the questions that have come in. So, thanks so much, folks. It has been a true pleasure. Always fun. And so, want to say, folks, we really appreciate you hanging out with us. And we would love to have both of these guests back. Ninetales and Vince are linked in the description, folks. So if you'd like to hear more from them, you definitely can. And so Ninetales and Vince, or music analysts, thank you very much for being here. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you to you. Thank you to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks,
And thank you to
everyone, for coming.
Ninetales for having
Thank you,
a
Vince.
civil discussion. I love this.
As
We should
civil
have
as it
more
could
like
be.
this. Listen, I don't have anything against anybody. I just want people to discuss stuff.
For sure.
Sounds good. That's in line with our vision, which is we do want to give everybody their fair shot at making their case on an equal playing ground. So that's what we're shooting for here in the future, and we see it, and we're pursuing it, and we're excited for it. So thanks so much, folks, for all of your positivity and support, all of the people giving positive feedback. We are always happy to get constructive criticism as well, but want to let you know it's we really appreciate those of you who go out of your way to give love and support. And so thanks so much for that, folks. We hope you have a great rest of your morning, and perhaps we'll see you later today. And one last thanks to Ninetales and Music Analyst.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.